three things in my life that I've tried to get you to do.
Okay.
Number one is do a half marathon with me.
Yeah.
The second thing I tried to get you to do is to set up a Vanguard.
I've done that. I've
You
done
did
that.
do that
Yeah, I
last
lost a
year.
grand.
It took about 6. Don't say that. Well, it took about 6 years,
Okay.
but I finally got you to set up a Vanguard. And the third thing I tried to do is convince you to not get a pet. You're about a year or two, or maybe 3 from retiring. I'm just going to get another bloody responsibility that restricts my ability to travel and do what retirees are meant to do.
All right, you're 100% right. I should have listened to at least the first one and the last one. I've got a pet, and the stupid thing keeps getting ill, right? Because it's getting a bit older nowadays, right?
Because it's alive. Because it's alive.
And it's getting a little bit old. I think it's nearly 6 years old now. And, I've got it. The costs aren't all that much, it's dog food and whatever and I've got to do insurance cover, which I did. The insurance cost me about £200 a year. So the stupid thing started to smell, got this sort of smelly old dog thing, took it down the vets, potential allergy to something and an ear infection. Allergy to what? Don't know. Right? And you can do it, but it's going to cost a bit of money to test, and even then we can't identify what it is. Here's some tablets, here's some medication, pay the bill and off you go. So I paid the bill, or went to pay the bill. It was nearly £300. I was there 20 minutes. It was nearly £300. Anyway, fuming, got home, and I started to look into this medicine. I thought, why is it so expensive? Well, the UK vet industry, unless you're a pet owner, you don't really get involved in it. But apparently it's worth around $1.5 billion, and it's projected to grow by another $2 billion in the next 5 or 6 years. So it's a massive market. There are around over 5,000, 5,500 vets in the UK and Ireland, right? So they're everywhere. So since COVID, pet ownership has increased. And what surprised me is out of that 5,500 odd vets within the UK and Ireland, 60% of that is made up of 5 companies. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
So talk about cornering the bloody market. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's people like Vets for Pets, Medivet, CVS Group, etc. And I use Medivet. And you know what? I wasn't going to talk about specific companies, but this is the experience that I've got with this specific company, Medivet. Been with them for a number of years, and usually it's just been, the injections once a year and that's it. But you know what? I was shocked at that price. I got home and I started to wonder why it was so expensive, and they just gave me a credit card receipt. They didn't give me a full breakdown or anything like that. It was only when I had to try and claim off the pet insurance, and they wanted a breakdown of the bill. So I asked for a breakdown. They sent me an email over with a breakdown, and this is when I started to lose my temper. Now, if you look on the ones that I've highlighted was the last bill, right? So you look on there, £378.77 this dog cost me.
Have a look at this. So I'm guessing that the dog's called Jessie.
The dog's called Jessie.
Okay. Let me see if I can interpret this. Yeah. Let me see if I can interpret it. So Jessie has had Prednidale tablets.
Yep.
25 mil. It is a 100 pack.
Yeah.
100
No. It's a 100 pack, but look how many they gave me. 5.
5. So what? 5 100 packs?
No, 5 tablets.
Okay, 5 tablets
For £26.77.
£6. No discount. Okay, fair enough. All right. So I'm guessing. So these tablets.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you just take 5 of them and then bish bash bosh.
It's done. So basically,
this is a permanent fix for me. That's money well spent. 26 quid. All right. Next one.
Okay.
The Canoral drops.
Yeah.
So that's 1 unit. I'm getting 25 mil. I'm guessing what's 25 drops. Maybe it's two drops per ear.
It's 10 drops per ear.
Okay. 60 quid. Bloody hell. Okay, so now for 100 quid, we've got some form of allergy or some form of reaction, and we've also got the ears sorted.
Yeah, no. We haven't got it sorted yet, mate. Because
all right, hold on. But this is let's go to the next one, right? So then we've got the Otodyne.
Otodyne. This is a liquid that you have to clean the ears with before you put the drops.
Okay, so now we're talking £120 to get rid of this smell.
Yeah.
All right, so then it's a £54 consultancy fee.
Yeah.
Bloody hell! I mean, we could have got that over the line with ChatGPT.
I was there 20 minutes Yeah. Well, I was there an hour. I waited 40 minutes in the waiting room until 40 minutes after my appointment time, and then 20 minutes in the actual.
Maybe
You know.
all right. So this is where the racket really begins.
Right.
I'm
So
seeing
now,
£209. Explain this one to me.
so this £209.91. Okay, you're supposed to get 100, but they only had 42 in the thingy. So 42 tablets cost me £209.90. Now this is the one that she's got to take, right, for the rest of her life, one a day. She's got to have this for the rest of her life for one a day.
So wait, so that means if two, let's just say £200 is 40%, then that means £100 is 20. That's £500 per 100 tablets, Andrew.
Well, it's hang on.
That's 500. That works out to £500 for 100 tablets. Yeah.
£4.99 a tablet.
Yes,
Yeah, you're right.
that's £500.
Yeah.
So we're talking about 100 days, £500. There's 365 days in a year.
Yeah.
Well, let's just take off. Let's just say you skip a few, so you're only going to give it 300 tablets a year.
Yeah.
Andrew, that's 1,500 in order for your house not to smell.
No. This is the
That's
scheme.
a trip to Jamaica. That is a trip to Jamaica.
I'm going to get a lot of really harsh comments for this next comment that I'm going to say is there is no effing way that I am buying these tablets for the rest of her life. If she has a little bit of an itch, she has a bit of an itch. If she smells, then I'll just bath her. Anyway, so I'm out of there now, and the funny thing is that I set myself, a certain amount of money every month to buy shopping and bits and pieces, blah, blah, blah. This just killed it. There's like no takeaways this month, no shopping this month. It killed it, right? Anyway, so I'm fuming. I get even more angry because, what a surprise. The insurance company says, no, it's an ongoing condition. We don't cover it. Right? So wasn't surprised there at all.
So I'm thinking this, right? Do you think that these prices are like this because they know most owners are going to go to their default? A bit like the American system where they're charging you bloody £30 for a paracetamol. Because the way they see it is, well, the bill's only going to be footed by the insurance company. And this is this is kind of our racket, right?
Yeah.
Get the prices of the medication up. Insurance company pays for it. Everyone auto enrolls to insurance. We'll do a bit of a graph. How many of those pets actually get ill? How often do they get ill? And bish bash bosh, everyone's a winner. Do you think it's one of those scenarios, Andrew?
It possibly is, but you know what? The insurance companies, typical insurance companies,
They're fighting not to pay this.
You've got really high access charges. If you go and you've spent £100, you think, well, you know what, I'm not going to get it back, so I don't claim. Or you spend, £300 and you think, oh, I'm only going to get 250 of it covered, 150 of it covered. It's not worth it, etc., etc. So it's a bit of a scam. But the biggest scam of all is that these companies that are almost monopolising the pet health industry, these
There's no competitiveness because
there's no competitiveness. Well, there is, but also there's no. They're actually being investigated. Apparently, there's no clarity. So you don't go in and there's not a list of medication or a list of thingy. In fact, I got a comment that her teeth are not as bright as they should be, and I thought, for God's sake, right? Okay, fine. I picked up a toothpaste, and she said, "Oh, that's £18. £18 for dog toothpaste." I put it straight back down, and she can use,
She can have my teeth.
Colgate or whatever. But this time I'm going to share some of the research I did. Now, Otodyne, if you remember Otodyne, where the blow has it gone? £28.53, right? Online.
That's for the 25 mil. That's for the 25 mil.
Yeah. No, this is for 100 mil. Exactly the same. The same brand, the same thingy. I mean, everything is exactly the same. Otodyne is actually a brand. £8.48. Almost half the price. Yeah, half the price. £28.53 to £14.40. Then you've got Canurel, same brand, 25 mil. Yeah, exactly the same. £15.66. I was charged almost £60. Almost.
That's for the 10 drops. That's for the 10 drops
That's
that
for
you
the
have.
10 drops. Yeah, 10 drops in each ear, so basically 2 days worth.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, 2 days worth, right? And it doesn't stop there, right? Let me go on to the one that really done my brain in. Let's share the screen again. And this one is the tablets. Now, do you remember the tablets? 42 of them for £209. Let me show you how much 42 cost. £78. So instead of, well, basically £5 a tablet is what the vet was charging me, and I can get them online. Yeah, for £1.87. Same brand, same everything. And if I get the drops from this company as well, which I will, free shipping, no delivery charge. It's exactly the same. Even if I look at the photo, it's exactly the same. The brand, the tablet, everything exactly the same. So
So what do you think's happened here, Andrew?
Well, I've been shafted, number one. The vets have shafted me. So my next job is to go and find an independent vet, right? Which I have got, yeah. There's a couple of them around here. But they're playing on emotions, because people love their pets almost like their children. You know, if you see a pet that's is hurt or is uncomfortable, etc., you go to the vet. At that time, you do your consultation, you pay for that, and then there's this guilt trip. And the guilt trip is, oh, well, she's going to need these tablets, and she's going to need those tablets, etc. And there's no mention of price, no mention of cost at all. And then you go to the receptionist, they give you a bill, and you know, you have a heart attack. And then, oh, it's all right, the insurance will cover it. No, they bloody won't. They won't cover it. Yeah, because again, insurance companies, is it an ongoing thing? Yes, it is. Finished, end of. Unless you pay £600-700 a month to cover ongoing things.
Yeah.
And even then, it's only limited to 1 year or 2 years. There's a limited time span on it. So it's just ridiculous. And I wanted to have a rant about this and get your point of view as a non-pet owner. And I know you think, you know what, stupid for having a pet, etc., etc. And sometimes I think that, especially when we want to go out, go on holiday, you know, we go out for somewhere and it's like, oh, I've got to get back, the dog's been alone for 4 hours or whatever. It's a dog, yeah? But it's not the way you feel, right? And then you see all of these old OAPs and they've got their little dogs and they're walking along with their dog. I think, how the hell do they cope? How do they cope?
Absolutely, Andrew. I think, just again, putting all jokes aside about not owning a pet, I completely respect the need to have a pet, or, you know, it's a personal decision. So I'm going to put that aside for a second. But one thing I will say is, just hearing your experience, it's funny because in our last episode, when we were talking about McDonald's and Starbucks, we were complaining about companies replacing personnel with machines. Well, here I am now going to talk about the power of machines and why we do need machines. This is a scenario where I really do think a ChatGPT really comes into power. Now, if we were to redo this experience, we know one thing for sure. Get your consultation, cross-reference it with ChatGPT. Their consultation is specifically there to tell you what the pet needs, and then use ChatGPT to source the cheapest and best products. I guess the lesson here learned is you can't trust these vets to have your best interests at heart. And you're absolutely right, Andrew. You know, you'd think that in a time like this where it's so expensive to live, where people can't even afford to sustain themselves, that these services, like, you know, these vet services, they'll be like, oh, wow, let's make it as easy as possible to give people the impression that they should, that having a pet is affordable. It seems like they're doing the absolute opposite.
They're not actually helping, are they? You know, when you've got people that are at the fringe of being able to turn their heating on in the winter, you know, you hear of pensioners wrapping up in several layers, because I can't, yeah, and then, you know, then you've got they're looking after an animal, and then you wonder why animals are being abandoned and animals are being handed to homes and things like that. Yeah. When the vet industry, billions and billions of pounds a year, are basically monopolised by 6 companies who own 60% of the market. They only used to own 10% back in 2013. So you can see how they've just gone buying, and the lack of choice is getting smaller and smaller. But I get exactly what you mean. And one of the things that, you know, I found out there, that you've got the online consultancies as well. You know, you've got vets that are online, you can have a chat with them, you'll pay minimal fees, and then you can go and buy the medicine either through them because it's cheaper, or directly yourself. It's just a joke, and I feel like I've been absolutely ripped off, and I would never have known unless I asked for an itemised bill, because they didn't give it to you straight away.
It's short-sightedness, because going back to the Starbucks and McDonald's situation, oh, let's just rejig it to make high profits. Let's compromise the customer experience, and they'll be back. Everything's okay. Well, this is where the death of these industries begin, because the reason why I call it short-sightedness from that veterinary brand is because surely you'd think, if we make pet care really affordable and we always look out for the customer, they're going to come in more often. They're going to have a feel good that we're able to solve their problem in the cheapest way possible. In fact, we've got economies of scale. So whilst that independent brand is selling those drops for 14 quid, we can sell it for 10. Right, incentivize the customer to come in more often than go into their local, independent vet. But that's not the case at all. Let's just rake up the costs. Let's do smoke and bullshit and mirrors when it comes to the actual item, and let's just rip off the customer. And what happens? Well, you're gonna think twice before you get your next pet. Let's be honest. After this pet, you're really gonna speak. This is my point. And all they do is they diminish the market, because people this spreads around like wildfire. And you go, listen. Don't get a pet, because you will get stung at least 2 or 3 times throughout its lifetime for a bill that's £1,000, £2,000, £3,000, and you're going to be literally grabbed by the balls.
Well, there's something spread around because it's being investigated by the Competition and Markets Authority, for lack of choice, for lack of openness, and clarity on pricing and things like that. So yeah, I mean, it's going to come, but it's going to be further down the line. And like I say, I was lucky that I had the money. What would have happened if I didn't have the money?
It's a numbered, and you know what? If I had a mechanism to short that stock for that company, I would. Because if that's the way you make profits, it's only going to go one direction. We've seen it time and time again. So yeah, thanks for sharing.
So just to why I had a rant is like, listen, I understand businesses are businesses and they're all there to make money. Companies that are selling online, they don't have the overheads of a brick and mortar shop, staff, etc. I get that, right? But it's 100% overpriced. There's no excuse for that.
It's disgusting. It's disgusting. No, there's no added value, and that's the point. Yeah. If you're raising margins, but you're not delivering any clear added value to the customer, you deserve for your business to diminish.
Thanks for your time, and as usual, like, subscribe, add any comments. Would love to hear stories about overcharging or just bad practice within the vet industry, or good ones. And see you all soon.